Hey y'all, welcome back to Diana's Garden Party. It's a beautiful day out here, Sunday afternoon. I've been working on some pots. This one has got a white and a red begonia and some of my graveyard moss, and if you look real closely, it's blooming yellow already. So this is going to be a really pretty pot later. So I'm going to set this off because I've already finished here. Now I'm going to work on another pot. I'm going to use the rest of these begonias. I've got a few red ones and a couple of white ones. Break up the root connection here so that it doesn't get itself all choked out. What I'm going to plant around the side is azusa. This is azusa. Now, if you're an old hand at gardening, you'll know what azusa is. If you're not, you think I'm making that name up, but I'm not. It's a very ancient ground cover that people have used for centuries. And it's also good to put in pots, because what it does is it comes and creeps and goes down and just kind of, I like things that cascade around the edges. It has beautiful leaves, and then at a certain time it'll have little purple blooms on it. But the leaves are what we're using it for, and the way that it cascades over. Now, if it's growing on the ground, it will just kind of go along a border. So there we go with another pot ready to put out into my garden. I water these things real good and set them around in the appropriate location, depending on whether the flower likes shade or whether it likes sun. These like sun, so I will put these in a sunny area. Thank you for the sound effects. That was free sound effects, y'all. Okay, I'm gonna do another pot here. This, I'm gonna take a little plant that was left over in my garden last year. It's a succulent. I'm not sure about the name of it, but it's the same as this plant here that has the pink blooms. Now, I took that one in last year. This one I rooted last fall, and it lived over outside during the wintertime. So I'm real pleased about that. It'll make a nice big plant like that. We'll start with something small and let it grow and get bigger. But I rooted that, so all you got to do is break a piece off. Most succulents are real easy to root. Stick it either down in dirt or a jar of water. Okay, now this pot, what I'm going to do with this is I have cut off cuttings from one of my weeping willows. So what I'm going to do is put this down in some very soft soil that's good and wet and let those root. But you can take those and put them into a jar of water and make sure it's in the light, and they will root. Especially weeping willows, they root so easily. Now this right here is a pot of yellow bells that I rooted last fall. Each one of these is a separate plant. It's probably more than 24 plants in here. And I stuck them in there last fall, and you see they're ready to put in individual pots now. And maybe this fall, ready to put into the ground. I've got a pot here that's full of roses that I rooted last year. So I love to root stuff. And I really could use some more weeping willows. So what you do when you're rooting something is you make sure that you've got growth that's woody when you're trying to root a tree or a shrub. Make sure that what you're working with is woody and not still soft like a plant like we plant here, because that will not root. That still needs to harden up. Plus, you can take just a couple of limbs and you cut each one of them off, and you've got a little section to put into the dirt. You don't want to have all these little extras around here, because what that does is that takes up your energy, your what it takes to root something. You don't need that on there. And you don't need all this extra here either. A piece about that big is all you really need. And actually, I can use both of these pieces to stick into the soil. Just stick it into the soil. And I'll come back later on and show you these after they start to root. I'll pull some of them up and let you see the roots. But you want to make sure to get your leaves off there, because we don't need to have to add that extra nourishment for those leaves. Leaves will grow back. I love to watch things grow. Now you want to make sure, like these, if I wanted to set these out in a northern climate, I could do them anytime in the springtime. But since this is a hot southern climate, I'm going to wait till the fall. That way I've got fall, winter, and spring for those plants to take hold before the hot summer gets to it. Because it's hard, even if it's rooted, it's hard to get it to live here in a hot, dry climate. I root these every year, even though, I mean, I might want to put another one or so in my yard, but I give them away a lot. I guess I could sell them if I ever wanted to get into that kind of business, but I just enjoy doing it so much that I wind up giving most of what I do away. So if you live around here, all you got to do is hit me up for one. Be glad to let you have it. Weeping willow is just so typically southern. Once these start to root, it'll start to put leaves back on. So that lets me know that it's rooting. Because if it's not rooting, it's going to die. But if it's putting leaves back on, it's trying to live. Okay. That's enough. And see, I wind up watering this real good and putting this in the sun so that it can start to root. So I guess that's all I need to do with you today. I hope you're out there working in your gardens instead of out on the streets. So, bye-bye, y'all. Have a good one.